The biggest lesson my parents ever taught me is we have money, you don't. I went from $42.86 and I think it was about 8 to 9 months later, I had $750,000.
I'm Moshe Popack, and this is Common Denominator, where we explore the principles behind purpose, growth, and success. And my guest today, Emily Frisella, embodies that perfectly. She started hustling at 14, bought her first home at 19, and opened her first business at just 20 years old. Today, we'll dive into her journey of building and scaling businesses. You gotta make profit, and you gotta survive, and you gotta pivot. So, did you have any pivoting failures?
I love the sale, sure, but who am I if I make that sale to them when I know that they do not need that product? Yeah.
What's your opinion in business about building true relationships and why that's so important?
With women, it's actually a proven study as well that they are better at those higher end roles, the like executive roles, because women are more detail oriented than men are.
Hi, Emily, and welcome to Common Denominator.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. We got this worked out and doing it now. I'm really excited to have a discussion today.
So the first thing that really sticks out in my mind, I'm thinking about, I'm a father, I have my children, and how do I set them up for the crazy world that we have in front of us? When I hear your story that you started working when you were 14, kind of take us back to that moment. Was it something that you had to do? Was it something that was just inside of you? Is it natural to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I think it was just something that was inside of me. I did not have to do that. My dad, he owned companies. He was an entrepreneur my whole life. I saw what entrepreneurship, the life it could afford you. And, we were not like, crazy wealthy. We were just like, upper middle class. And like, but the biggest lesson my parents ever taught me is we have money, you don't. And that was something that always stuck with me. And it was something where we were not spoiled. We worked on a farm. We had jobs. My dad is 71 and still works. He still farms like 1,000 acres. And, after he had exited his companies, and I saw what entrepreneurship gave you, not just material things. We lived a very modest lifestyle, but I saw that the freedom that you could have and that you were your own boss and that you could make the decisions and you could be in control. And basically you were in control of your future and everything that, comes with that if you decide to take that role on. And they always taught me, it's better to own than rent and things like that. So that piece of me, I knew I was like, I want to own my house. That is actually what propelled me to start working at 14. And I did just want to earn my own money. And so I started working 2 jobs at 14 years old, and I saved all of my money because I was very blessed where our parents were able to let us keep all of our finances, and they were, they got us starter cars and took care of our insurance and stuff. So I could save all of my money. And I used that money to buy my first house when I was 19, and I gutted that and, redid that whole house. And then at 20, I bought my first brick-and-mortar building, and I opened my flower shop, and it was a luxury gift boutique using the money that I had been saving since I was 14 years old. And I wanted to, I am so blessed that I had those lessons growing up to see what hard work can actually, give you. But also I saw the price that it takes, not financial, but the time. My dad's office was an hour and 20 minutes from our farm. And so he would drive into work every day. And he did this for 40 years, driving an hour and 20 minutes one way to work. And I knew that he would come home. My mom would have dinner on the table. She was a stay-at-home mom. And then he would go to the farm and work and take care of the animals and then come home and go to bed and get up and do it again. So I didn't just see what it could provide you, as far as a lifestyle, but I saw what it took as far as the time and the investment that you have. And I was just always attracted to that lifestyle. And so that's how I got to where I'm at now.
Do you think that as far as a female, were you the only female that was really working as hard as you were working at that time? And probably the only one that actually bought a house at 19, I would think.
I don't know, because I was, pre-social media and pre-really any internet, and you didn't see people. So I can't, confidently say yes. But from just through my years, I'm 43 now, and speaking with other people, they seem like, oh, that's great. I feel like I find a mix. There are some people that have followed that path, and there are some that are just kind of blown away, oh, how'd you know you wanted to do that? And I think it was because also I lived in a small town. There wasn't a lot of extracurricular activities. There wasn't a lot of stuff to do. So it's either you sit at home or go to parties with your friends, or I could work and make some money, try to create a better future.
A few years ago, we live in Miami, and we a few hours north of Miami, we bought a farm. I tell my wife, I'm like, that life of living on the farm the children, I think, will have the greatest benefits from that. What would you say from that life, living on the farm, was the greatest benefits for you?
It was the work ethic that it takes to maintain. It was seeing how things can look easy on the outside, but on the inside, there's always something to do. Because people think the farm life, especially now with social media, I'm sure you see it, people are into like their little mini farms, they're like little mini goats and they're mini pigs and they're mini this and mini that. But a real operating, working farm, there's so much that goes into it. And it's also a lot of troubleshooting and how quickly things can change, and you know this as well. If if you're running an active, like a working farm, you have really no control over anything. You're beholden to the weather, to, what happens in the world. And you just have to do the best that you can. So there's a lot of planning and preparation, because you could plant all of your crops and you have, either a drought, so they never come up, or you could have floods and they now drown out your crops. So it's very like feast or famine in that lifestyle. And it taught you to be prepared and to always be looking forward and planning for the worst and not hoping for it, but just being prepared when things turn wrong. And those are things that I've taken into my businesses where, okay, I always want to have, a good cash reservoir if something happens. And I always want to make sure that I cover my butt with everything that I do, because you never know what the future is going to hold. And the climate on a farm, meaning literally the environment, and the climate in business, they're pretty parallel as far as, like, I'm sure like entrepreneurs, it's kind of like a roller coaster. You're going to be feasting and then you can go into the famine. And then it's like, so you just have to be prepared. And I think knowing how the farm life is, that is something that I feel like aligns very closely with the business world.
So when you talk about feast and famine in entrepreneurship, take us back to 20 years old, right? So you end up buying this business, right?
Oh, yeah.
What actually ends up happening? And, because I always think about business as far as, you got to make profit and you got to survive and you got to pivot. So did you have any pivoting failures? What happened?
Oh, yeah. I had more failures than successes. So at 20 years old, I feel like anybody, if you're 20 years old, you own your house, you now own a building and some land, and you have a business. I mean, my ego was too big to fit in this room. I was not going to take help from anybody. I thought I knew everything. And that's what's crazy to me and so humbling now. I'm like, what the hell was I thinking that I knew something that other people didn't? Because I wouldn't take advice from my dad, who'd been a successful entrepreneur my whole life. I didn't ask. I'm like, I'll figure it out. I'll make it work. And it was so stupid of me to do that. I didn't ask questions. I didn't read books. I didn't try to, personal development wasn't a thing. I just was like, I'm just going to make it work. This seems right. And there were a lot of times where I just completely failed. And the hardest part was I was 20 years old. All my employees were older than I were by quite a bit. They were at the time they were in their 30s to 50s. And I also had this problem of they think I'm just some young, dumb kid. So I was adamant to prove I was not some young, dumb kid, when in fact I was a young, dumb kid. I didn't understand anything in business, didn't talk to my dad about business. I just knew I'm going to buy this, I'm going to make it work. I didn't understand terms on invoices. I mean, as stupid as that sounds now to me, I was 20, I'm like, okay, I'll get this and then I'll just pay it whenever I can. And I'm like, oh shoot, these people want their money in 5 days, 15 days, 30 days, whatever it was. And I was so locked in on the visual, of what people would see, the optics of having a successful business. If I wanted to have all of this high-end boutique stuff, and I had tuxedo rentals that I did for weddings, and I did wedding rentals, and I did the flowers and all this kind of stuff. And I'd spent so much doing that. And then all of a sudden we hit a drought. This is my first year of business. We hit a drought in sales because when I bought the business, it was around the holidays and people were automatically just, or when I bought the building and stuff and opened my business, it was around the holidays. So you have Thanksgiving centerpieces, Christmas stuff, Valentine's Day, prom, Mother's Day, all this stuff. Well, then that summer it got real dry and I didn't have the funds to carry anything. And I messed up my banking because it was before online banking even. I messed that all up. And then one of my employees came to me. I had 6 full-time employees at the time. So not a lot, but 6 was enough at that time. She came to me and pulled me aside. She said, Emily, she's like, the bank won't cash my paycheck. And I was like, what are you talking about? And you know that feeling when you know something's wrong, you just get real hot, it just comes over you. And I felt that. I go, what are you talking about? She goes, they said there's no money, because she banked at the same bank my business account was at, so they could immediately tell. And I go, oh, that's wrong. And I didn't know. I just grabbed her check. I go, oh, that's wrong. I go, let me go up to the bank. I'm going to make this right. And I went up to the bank and I was like, there's an error in my account. I should have this much amount. She's like, no. And she turned the screen. I had $42.86 in my business checking account. And I didn't know because all the little statements that come in for 4 months, I didn't even clear them. I was like, oh, it'll be fine. I got money. I'll do this when I have time. And I was so embarrassed. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, gotta get some money in here. So I went to my house, got my savings little account book, and I went in and put some of my money in to the business. And I pulled out cash to cover everybody's paychecks. And I lied to my employees. I said, oh, the bank messed something up. I was like, here, I just got to pay you guys cash for a couple weeks until like we get it straightened out. Sorry about that. And completely lied. And it still like haunted me until I actually wrote my last book. And I like talk about it because I just felt so bad. But again, it was me holding that thought of like, they're going to think I'm some young, dumb kid. And I'm proving them right if I admit that I like didn't have this under control. And so then after that, but it was, in hindsight, it was the biggest blessing because it made me get super hungry and just super gritty to make things happen. And it changed the trajectory of my business because I got super resourceful and did some wild stuff to create revenue. And I went from $42.86 and I think it was about 8 to 9 months later, I had $750,000 because of just like hitting that like, oh shit button. And I had to get really, really nitty gritty and start making stuff work. And it was the biggest mess up I made, but also it was the biggest blessing.
I'll tell you what I find the core difference between a really successful entrepreneur is they're able to make decisions and take action. It seems like do you feel that you had that naturally as a young child, that you were just like, go, 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 and I'm going to just make decisions while people are just sitting around on their hands?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it comes back to the farm of figuring stuff out. You had to be resourceful. Like, if something breaks, you had to figure out how to fix it quick because the parts store was an hour away or whatever it might be. And it was just kind of like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with right now. Now, what can I do with this situation to make it better? What's in my control to contribute a positive outcome to this? And so that has been, I feel like, something that has been ingrained in me from childhood.
It's very unique to hear that you learned that from the farm. Like my son's in law school, so I was like, you have to learn how to critical thinking and problem solving. And when you have that, you can go ahead and take intelligent decisions to move forward. And I guess also the resilience, because like you said, sometimes on the farm, it could be a drought, right? There could be a situation, right? And then you have to make it work, right?
Yeah. But again, it's the lessons learned that I'm able to like, okay, I know I could validate like, this is where this is coming from. And it just worked. And it's just like, I just was not going to give up because I was so terribly embarrassed. And I don't know if it was at the time, ego preservation. I don't know if I realized what I was actually doing at the time, to be quite honest with you, because I was 20, again, super young, didn't know anything about business. So I don't know if I actually knew what I was doing at the time. I just knew I had to get some money stat.
I know that they talk a lot when, let's say you have money to invest and you're working with investment management, they talk about the ideas of diversification. And it seems that you're involved in many different businesses and many different, right? You have your cookbook and many other things, right? Many other things that are kind of all over the place, but at the same time, it's probably so organized in your mind because it's your passions. And why do you think that diversification is important?
Well, I think for me, it's of interest. So I honestly, like, just quite frankly, it's of interest. So I don't get bored with one thing, but I also like it because different businesses have different peaks and valleys to them. And the way that they are structured, they all balance each other out. So I know exactly what I'm getting. I can build a baseline with income, results, all of that by projecting what each business is going to do. So like, let's say there's a business spike here because it's a seasonal business. Well, then it's going to flail off. Well, this one's also seasonal, but it's the season that's not business A. Business B fills that season. So therefore, you're still always like, trucking strong, and you're building. It's like a building block of like, like those little stacking little dolls they sell, where it's like, they're tiny and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, you're able to start stacking those to where they all end up leveling out. So there's never, you're not going to have drops in your revenue or your income or, worry about your employees. And we do have a lot of mix of businesses and industries that they're in. And I find it personally just like very fulfilling because I have so many interests that I don't think I would be happy with just doing one thing. I thrive in chaos. I thrive in stress. I love it. I feel like I perform better than if I was sitting at home all day just doing that. I would be absolutely miserable. So I do it more so not just the diversification aspect of it, but more just for me because I feel fulfilled and I love to build and grow. And I think that's how we've kind of built all of these businesses because we love the building and growing, my husband and I. And then it's like you get it to a certain point and your team's like confident and they can take over. You're like, okay, let's add another one now because we love the building and the growing aspect of it. So it keeps going.
And how do you know, they talk also about the concepts of scaling. Again, being in different businesses, everyone has a limited amount of capital. They're like, okay, where am I going to put my capital now? This 500,000, this 200,000 into this, or am I going to put it here? How do you make that decision of which business you're going to decide to scale this year, for example?
So it's all projections and it's what we have. So we basically have what we're going to be doing 2 years from now that we're working on now. And so with that, we're able to figure out, okay, this is a big deal that we're getting into, like my paper and plan company, we're getting ready to do some really big national things. So I know this is where I'm going to need to invest in because I have to. So I've known that though, because I've been working on this for 18 months and now it's here. Another one that we have that we're heavily investing in is something that will be out next year that we've been working on the last 2 years. So it's really just forecasting, engaging, and taking the time to really sit and think about what you want and where you see the business trends and being able to see what is in the forefront of businesses. Because I feel like a lot of operators, or maybe inexperienced operators that you see like, oh, you need to diversify and scale and blah, blah, and they do all that too fast because they're in the business that's hot now instead of seeing, well, what's going to happen with this? I mean, we saw it a lot like with the like vape companies. There were vape shops popping up all over the place, not projecting, okay, but what can I do now? They try to get a business going for what's popular and like, but how can I actually advance it if something happens here? I always approach everything if this is banned or if this is not able to do this or this vendor says, screw you, I'm not doing your stuff anymore. What can I do? And it's always having basically like you're building a mental safety net for yourself of how you're going to pivot. So it's really just, forecasting out how you see things and not living in just the now, because as an entrepreneur, as you know, you're always this all the time. I don't think often enough entrepreneurs make or schedule a time to just chill and let their brain just like, where do I see the vision of this? And, how is this going to pan out? They do it step by step instead of, this is my ultimate goal. Now let's goal set backwards as to what I need. And I always goal set backwards every single year so I know what to do moving forward.
I've seen that the most successful entrepreneurs basically reverse engineer, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly.
Right. That's exactly what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Because you're able to see the vision with action plan, right? Like step by step. If you don't, like, how important is it to visualize where you're going to go and write it down? Like I talk a lot on the show about writing down your goals and how important is that for you?
Oh my God, it's everything. It is absolutely everything. And I don't say that lightly because when I write it down, that's me committing to myself that this is going to happen and it's going to guide me on exactly the avenues that I take and the steps that I take to make that happen. Because when you don't write them down, you can look at it and be like, oh, did I say this or what? You kind of start to question yourself. And I feel like writing it down is holding it accountable and also branching out from that. Like, this is what I ultimately want, but what comes off of this? And I make like a little spider graph of what I want, how we can leverage this brand to do this on this brand and strategically work to where every brand actually ends up complementing the other in some way, shape, or form, or one brand produces a product that the other brand sells now to market. So there's just so many ways to do that. It's just taking the time and like pen to paper and map it out because and I think it's also, they say, there is studies that say like you are so much more highly likely, I don't know exactly the percentage, but it's over like 50% that you are more likely to achieve your goals if you write them down. That's
super important. I know for me, I'm constantly trying in all aspects to build more and more relationships. Yeah. What's your opinion in business about building true relationships and why that's so important?
It's about nurturing it and being a friend and not just a sale. I think there's too many transactional relationships out there. And once people get what they want from you, they don't care. So something that I do is, if I meet someone new at an event or something, and if we're friends for 6 months and they don't ask me for something, then I feel like they're a friend. Otherwise, I'm sure you've experienced this as well. They come into your life, they want to be buddy-buddy with you, and they're joking, sending you funny memes. And then 4 weeks go by and they're asking you for something. And that tells me that was just a transactional relationship for them. And they're trying to like manipulate it in a sense to get what they want. So taking the time to build true relationships, and even if it's not in person, like one of the big companies we're getting ready to do some things with nationwide, like I said, for Paper and Plane Company, it was something that came up 18 months ago, and it was going to happen. When it came up 18 months ago, we talked about doing something in 2 weeks from there. Well, then things happened on that company's side that didn't work out, and it was kind of like radio silence for a little bit, but I just kept nurturing that relationship and sending them samples of products and just touching base, and not in an annoying level, but maybe just, once every like 3 weeks a month or so. And these people, they really wanted to work together as well. And it finally worked out. And the woman even said, she was like, I'm so glad we never lost touch because this is going to be great. And it's just working. It's doing it out of your genuine care for people, because people can sniff BS a mile away. And it's just like, imagine you're walking into a used car sales lot, and as soon as the salesman comes over to you, and I know for me, as soon as they say, hey, what can I help you with today? It's like, you just get this kind of like, how are you going to try to like sell me? It just becomes this like, you're just turned off by it. It's not appealing, and you don't want to be that. Offer people help. If people don't need your product, tell them they don't need it. I have people say that, with like, let's say planners, and they're like, well, I really like this. I go, well, then a planner is not going to be for you. Don't spend your money on it. I don't want you to wait. And it's like, yeah, would I love the sale? Sure. But who am I if I make that sale to them when I know that they do not need that product? So if I tell them no, that gets more word of mouth than anything else, because they're gonna be like, dude, I tried to buy one of Emily's planners, but she said I didn't need it. So like, and I like, that just is like crazy to me. And then they'll end up buying more of other products because they know like they can trust me as like a source for them.
Yeah, I was just curious, like, it seems that you're very involved with Paper and Plane now. Tell us about that. Tell us about the company and what excites you the most about it.
Yeah, so Paper and Plane Company I started 5 years ago, and I did a little test run. So I wrote my cookbooks, and I always loved planning and organizing and things like that, and loved stationery. And Andy and I were talking, my husband and I were talking one night, and I was like, I think I want to make a planner and kind of see how it goes, selling it under Fit Home and Health, one of my companies like that sold the cookbooks. I go, and just see what the demand would be. And I did it, and I sold out like instantly. And I was like, okay, this is a thing. And I did it once more again, and it sold out again. And then I decided to start the Paper and Plane Company, and I hired my sister, who's my COO, and she worked in the law community and family law for 16 years, and I've been trying to steal her away for a while. And so she finally came on board, and then we started just growing from there. It was slow the first like 2.5, 3 years, but then you kind of you find your groove, and you build that momentum, and you just keep working at it, even though you may not see results for the first couple of years. And I think that's important for entrepreneurs to remember, that it's not turn the lights on and money starts flowing in. And it's just something that is very passionate of mine, because now it's not just like, we've grown so much from just selling planners and stationery. It's like a big thing is our children's collections, because we're helping kids get off of technology and learn basic like financial literacy skills, writing, math, and things like that they don't have to have a screen for. And the parents have been very responsive to it, because I feel like in this age of information and technology, more and more people I feel like are starting to pull away from that. And we were able to see that coming 2 years ago, and now it's been beneficial to us to be able to project that and come up with develop these types of products that allow parents to have enriching, imaginary play with their kids without an iPad in front of their face.
I'll tell you, in our company, most of our executives, I'd say most of our executives are women. And I just wanted to get your take, just in general, what do you feel is like the X factor of women over men as far as in the business environment? I just find it's not one or the other. It's not that, it just happens to be that things that need to get done. No, it's
a matter of fact. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me why you think, because I know you work really hard to empower women in the business world.
Yeah, and with women, it's actually a proven study as well that they are better at those higher end roles, the like executive roles, because women are more detail oriented than men are. And I find that women will also ask more clarifying questions than men will, because men want to just handle it and, okay, I got it, I'll figure it out. Where women, Paper and Plane Co. is all women, and they always ask clarifying questions. And, we're very detailed with it. And if I say, hey, can you go do X, Y, Z? If there's something they don't understand, they are more than happy to come and ask me. And I also find from the like emotional standpoint, people think like, oh my gosh, women, that's got to be so dramatic. It's not, because I've ran teams of all men before, and I've ran teams of all women. And I find that women don't hold things in like men will, as far as like if they have little spats with their coworkers and stuff. It's not pettiness. It's like, with women, I have found that they'll be like, hey, look, you said this, but like, that's not what I said, and blah, blah, and they'll handle it. They handle it on their own. And I actually find it's like way less dramatic working with all women because you're not trying to like battle egos or anything like that. They're just more forthcoming. And, you know, I think there's what men do and there's what women do. But like, I just find that women, especially my industry, because we have to be very detail oriented when we're like designing planners, because, you know, like dates, numbers, all that kind of stuff. But I just feel that, you know, women just, the clarifying questions and communication is stronger, in my opinion.
And I also know that you spend a lot of time giving back to the community. Why is that important for yourself, for your husband? Why spend time doing that?
Because we just feel like, you know, we've worked hard and we've done things in our lives that we feel very blessed for. We want to be able to, you know, make it other people's lives, you know, a little bit easier for them, no matter what charity it is or what community event. And just to help empower other people and realize, like, you know, you can do more with your life. There is a lot out there for you. And some people are just dealt a really bad hand in life, and it's just factual. They can't change it. You know, there's a lot, I think, online of people just saying, like, if you're in this case, just get out and do this and blah, blah. I'm like, well, some people, those circumstances aren't always factual, you know, and people need more help than others. And I started doing more whenever my husband and I got married about 13 years ago, because he told me whenever we were dating and everything that he said he used to say a prayer every night when he was broke. Because I met my husband, I was his bill collector back in the day. Whenever I worked at a job and I was calling him collect on bills, that was 19 years ago. And, you know, he always said that, like, I always pray to God that if I was successful, I would do good with it and give back to people. And now it's like, it's holding that promise that you made. And it's also, I tease sometimes, like, it's almost like a superstition, like, okay, if we don't do more, it's going to come back and get us. So, you know, it's just important. And it honestly, it's like giving to me is almost a selfish thing because you just feel so good doing it.
That's true. It's true. But I think when I have like really open conversations with super successful entrepreneurs, is it surreal for you, like where you are looking back? You know, you talk about the time when you had nothing and starting out, and where you are now. Do you every day wake up like pinch yourself and with tremendous gratitude, like where you are? Because I feel your energy, like when you're communicating, you're just very passionate about business and the things that you're doing.
Yeah, I do. I actually have like a little, I don't journal or anything, but I do have a little gratitude journal. It's just 3 lines every day. I write down 3 things in the morning that I'm grateful for. And as far as surreal, you know, and people want to be like, oh no, I knew this was going to happen. I didn't. It is like surreal. You know, I pull up to our beautiful home and I'm like, I'm so grateful to live here. I'm grateful for the people that I have in my life, for all of the bad things that happened or good things that led me to the relationships that I have now. And, you know, the community that we have around us and just the support. And yeah, I mean, I don't take it for granted because I know that tomorrow it could all go away. And so it's, you know, I just want to make sure that, you know, I always show gratitude towards that, because I feel like the more gratitude you show, the more blessings that you have come your way.
Over and over and over, the highly successful entrepreneurs, it just was a certain timing, and they didn't really think that thing would happen. And all of a sudden, they had that first million, 10 million, 100 million, billion.
Yeah.
That's literally how it happens. So it's just you grind, you do it, and then you get a knock on the door and someone wants to buy your company. That's actually how it happens. And it's very strange, I mean, to see that. What would you say from all the people that you know that, again, have that high success in entrepreneurship is the common denominator of them? If you'd say, like, let me wind this down to this thing, what would you say that is?
That the road to make your first million is going to be the hardest that there is. Absolutely. It's always that, because you learn so much, and the road to $1 million might sound like, oh, I just got to make that. But the amount of money you lose on the journey to that is $1 million lesson for you in life, because you learn everything in that first million. Again,
it's not just pivoting, but it's also pivoting with money. So it's everything's an investment. You're not losing. There are times in real estate investments that it'll look like money's being lost. So, but the more comfortable you get with that flow, money in, money out, the more abundance comes. But
and do you feel it makes you more hungry?
Completely. I'm grateful every day. I also function very well in chaos. There's so many moving pieces. I mean, I've said on the show many times, I have a lot of children. I have 11 children.
I know, that's
and my wife
wild.
and I,
So
right,
that's
so
great.
that's completely wild. My wife and I, we work together.
Yeah.
She's exactly your age, and she's
Yeah.
a million miles an hour, and it's organized chaos, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Have you always been like that, or was it more of like the more things that came on your plate, you just kind of like, almost like you adapt to that?
Yeah, I'm a pretty good adapter.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't so much, I guess, in my early years, there wasn't so much stability. So I kind of got used to just adapting. And then you just fine tune that. And it's whatever it takes, always. It's 100% of the time, whatever it takes.
What you just said, that makes a lot of sense as far, and I'm like kind of reflecting on that, like in my life, as far as like things, weren't always great. And you just had to adapt whatever the situation was. And yeah, it's like, it's that adaptation that got you to do what you do now.
I guess they call it, right? What is the thing that you do every day? It's your habits and rituals. And because of that today they talk about hiring a chief adaptability officer, like the guy that pivot. Because when I speak to people, whether it's in business, in politics, in law, and what's actually happening compared to 50 years ago and the books that they wrote 50 years ago, things are moving extremely fast. If you just think about like money in business, we've printed 50% of all money in the past 10 years.
Yeah.
So it has to go somewhere. So things are happening. And 25% of the world economy is in the US. So you don't even know. And with AI, so that's why resilience, adaptability, we talk about it a lot in the show, but if you have it in your nature and you just smile about it, oh, wow, I just got punched in the face. And you just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned AI, and I feel like this is going to be where people are really going to have to really lean into that adaptability, because whether you're comfortable with it or not, whether you know about it or not, it's here and you can't deny that. And so it's adapting and becoming, versing yourself in it. And, do you have to use it in your business? No, but if you don't, you will get left behind, and you don't have to lose that human element. And I think that's something that people are also trying to adapt into, of like, okay, well, I have AI that does this now, so now what is my role? And it's, people trying to feel like recreate value for themselves or lean into it more, or, just adapting more because of the age of technology and how fast things are moving. Because like you said, it's like everything written 50 years ago is exempt. It's not even, accurate anymore. And actually, one of my nieces, she's 18, she just started college, and we were talking, and I drove her somewhere the other day, and she was talking about college books. I said, yeah, it was always so expensive and blah. She's like, yeah, my book was $400. I was like, yeah, it's crazy. She goes, yeah, but it's actually just you print it out and put it in a binder. Because she's telling she had to go to Target to get binders for her school books. I go, what are you talking about? She goes, well, yeah, they don't actually print the books anymore. They just print the pages and put it in there, because I guess they're changing so fast. The colleges don't want to invest in it. It's wild.
Yeah, if you think about, and I've talked about this on the show, just the education in practical terms. It's not really, my son would show me a picture of what a classroom looked like 100 years ago, and what it looks like today. It looks exactly the same. So it's like
crazy,
the apple on the desk and the teacher sitting there. But I want to tell you, I mean, we could sit and talk all day about business and geek out about it. But I want to thank you, and I want to wish you tremendous success.
Thank you so much.
Keep up the energy, and
thank you.
Thank you so much, Emily. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate your time, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoyed the show? Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that inspire, challenge, and connect us all. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to stay updated on all new episodes. Thanks for being part of the conversation.